I'm Marion Patterson with Rich from Winding Pathways and Kelsey Spots from Hoover's Hatchery. We are several yards apart, so we're going to take off the masks so you can hear us a little bit better. We have a treat for you today. As we approach the last days of summertime, we are out at the Etzel Sugar Grove Farm and a very special project that involves chickens, soybeans, corn, and some cooperative projects that Rich is going to introduce you to and the main characters there. And we have some chickens that are going to come here and begin to live right here at Sugar Grove Farm. So Rich, what have we got going?
Okay, well the background is this farm was owned by the Etzel family for many, many years, and George Etzel, when he got older, gifted it to the Indian Creek Nature Center just a few years ago. And the Nature Center partnered with Rodale Institute and Frontier Herbs to establish a project that Carl's going to talk with you about that involves chickens. So he needed a few more chickens, we needed to get rid of a few, so we're going to let these girls go here while Carl's starting to tell you about what he's doing with chickens.
Thanks, Rich, for that great introduction. And my name is Carl Rozier. I am the Director of Research here at Rodale Institute's Midwest Organic Center. Our main campus is actually in Cookstown, PA. Our goal is to basically build on organic agriculture within the Midwest region by doing research projects that enhance and help farmers that are in the middle of transitioning from conventional agriculture to organic agriculture, or even farmers that are doing more conventional but want to practice some sustainable management practices. This project that we're working on today is, we call it a small livestock integration project, or basically in layman's terms, it's chicken integration into row crops. So we're using chickens to mill around in this row crop of soybeans in these plots. And chickens are great because they basically provide a number of services for the soil with their scratching and their basic activities of eating weed seed and insects, which provides a great benefit to the crop. Their scat that they produce from their leavings actually is high in nutrients, and the plants are able to uptake those nutrients and create more photosynthesize at a higher rate because they're more nutrient rich. And then this creates this great feedback loop between the plants becoming larger, bigger, nutrients, producing more litter that the chickens take advantage of. If you think about how we produce meat or in our country today, a lot of that is in these large feedlots, these CAPO feedlots. And I read an article the other day where about 5% of the meat that we consume is pasture raised. So we're really trying to get chickens back into pasture production. So that's another part of this project. So increasing soil health, increasing plant biomass in production, and reintroducing livestock to the farm.
So Carl, you've done this summer, and you and your son Gavin have been working on it. And then we had that doggone derecho. Tell us a little bit about how the chickens adapted when you first got them, the story about the owl and those kinds of things. And then, I mean, that's not the same building, I don't think.
No, that's a new chicken house. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So with the project, we started in July. We actually wanted to have 2 chicken houses operational this summer, but because of COVID and cutbacks, budget, and staffing, we put a pause on a few projects, and we actually pushed pause on this one, and we weren't really going to do chicken integration this year, but through a very generous donation from Rich, gave us a chicken house, and Gavin encouraging us to do some livestock integration on the farm. We unpaused the project and marched forward on it, and we had a small house in the plots actually behind you. We had about 10 hens out there, and we had them for about 3 weeks. And we figured, well, we would learn something. Like, what could we learn from the chickens when they were on the plots? Because, you don't know, are they going to eat the beans? Are they going to decimate the soybeans? And I would say, like, the first few days that we had them out there, we had one hen, and watching her take out a Japanese beetle that was a little bit above her head, and she jumped up to get it. And it was just the neatest thing to see. Like, they're actually doing what we hypothesized that they would do to actually maybe provide some kind of pest control for that. Chickens are incredibly smart. Like, another thing is having a canopy. So the soybeans provide this closed canopy and for predator protection. So that was one thing we were worried about. Would they mill around too much and then be open to predators? We actually have a large owl that lives in the woodlot behind us. And one night we were out here and the owl swept over, and the chickens all ran under cover. So they're very much prepared for that. And yet you can see them right there, tucked into the soybean.
And Carl, what I'm noticing is the 4 chickens we just released, they're gone.
Yep.
In the cover crop, and they're eating the bugs.
Yeah, they're doing what we kind of hoped that they would do. So we were a little worried that they might hang around the house too much, that they would be too drawn to the food and the water and the cover of that. But you know, these are great scavengers. They're great scavenging chickens. They definitely like to move around. And that was another question that we really thought about was, should we go with broilers or should we go with egg-laying hens? One of the drawbacks with broilers, and actually you don't want broilers to move around, right? You want them to be kind of stationary and gain that weight that they need because you get paid by the pound. Whereas the hens are much more, they're mobile. And we joke because there's one we call Shadow, because she's black. We named her, big mistake, but we did. But Shadow is a total hunter. Like, we never see her feed. She's always out in the grass, like looking for something and taking something out. One day we have a staging area where we have it, and she pulled the biggest caterpillar we'd ever seen out of the grass. It was that big, and we were both amazed because we would have never seen it. But yeah, no, they are quite industrious. We were very impressed by how they work.
Gavin, I've got a question for you. What do you do for any supplemental kind of feed?
So we do give them conventional feed. We do it pretty much every 2 days. I'll come out and I'll give them some food, and I mean they eat, but I think they mainly scavenge on insects, and I don't actually have to feed them that much on the feed that we buy.
Can you show us where the feed is kept?
Yeah,
And we're way down in the far corner, and I see the house, so we're going to pan up that way. And I see lots and lots of soybeans on the plants, so they're eating the bugs, not the soybeans. So Gavin, where's our supplemental feed?
So we have our feed right in that little trough right there. We also have our water. So they pretty much eat out of there. At night I'll tuck it in the house for predator reasons. Sometimes we toss in watermelon and scraps we find. So
Cool.
and they like to eat on that, and I think they enjoy it. It's pretty funny to watch them run over and start eating the watermelon. So.
And here comes one now. She's curious about, who are these people? What are they doing? And I saw there was a little egg in there, so I know they go in to lay. And tell me a little bit about the little blue tarp over there on the far side.
So yeah, that actually serves 2 purposes, which we learned from derecho. So the first one is it does provide shade. So we want to definitely make sure we give them some supplemental shade. They do like to hang around the house. That's where we keep our water and stuff. But also, if you notice, there's 3 tie downs on this house.
Right.
So we have 2 in the front, 1 in the back, and that was, from derecho. We learned an important lesson and these are staked into the ground, and the house is mobile. So this house will move in a week. We'll move it down to the next part of the plot, and those stakes come right out. We re-drill them back into the ground. Another important lesson we learned was that house is bolted down. The walls are bolted to the frame, and the eaves are bolted to the walls, which are bolted to the frame. It's also on an old tractor trailer that was used to move a 3-point tractor. So it's pretty heavy. So we don't know. We're hoping we don't see another derecho for another 20 years, but we've been debating, are we prepared for one? So we do think this house would stand the test of time a little bit better than our previous model. And the one thing that I did learn from derecho, and I've lived through a few natural disasters, is everybody kind of has the same opinion. These things happen. You assess your situation and you immediately start cleaning up and you build and you prepare for the next time.
Yeah.
And that's, we licked our wounds for a couple days, and then we're like, well, how can we build a better house?
Great.
And
so it sounds like you've learned a lot of good lessons. Looks like it's pretty successful. And you said something about you moved the pasture. Why do you do that?
Yeah, so we move them once a week because we don't want them to exhaust their food supply, right? So we want them to eat the insects that are here. We want them to eat the weed seeds that are here. We want them to do the things that they're going to do naturally in this plot. And then, but we don't want them to get to a point where they're like, oh, these beans look pretty good. They start eating the beans.
Yep.
And then we move them to the next paddock, and then we let them do their job there. And then eventually they'll move to another plot, and we'll do that. So hopefully next year we'll have another 2 or 3 houses up and running is our goal. I'd like to have 100 hens out here moving within these. And these plots next year won't be soybean. We'll move them into oats next year. We'll see how they do with oats. So, and then one of our partner farmers does a lot of work with 60-inch corn, and he's really excited because that house would actually move down a 60-inch aisle.
Now, what does that mean?
Oh, great, yeah, so,
tell me.
I told...
60 inches sounds like about 5 feet, that's me.
Yeah,
so if I lay down...
You'd be the width of a row spacing.
Okay, all righty.
So conventional corn is planted on what's called 30-inch spacing, so pretty tight spacing. And they do that because that's about the maximum yield you can get, maximum amount of plants you can get to maximize your yield. This other method of planting corn in 60-inch spacing, so you double the space row, so about 5 feet, exactly what you said, but the same density of seeds, and you get the same production, we think the same yield. But what you can do, because that's open canopy, that 60-inch area, that 5 feet, you can intercrop that with another crop. So there's plots down there that we actually have a study going. We have clover in there. So the clover's great because clover provides biological nitrogen fixation. So these are microorganisms in the soil that are fixing nitrogen. And because those plants are doing it for you, you don't have to add as much nitrogen in. So hopefully next year we'll be able to build a similar tractor and be able to move that through those 60-inch aisles. So then, so now we have 60-inch corn with the beneficial microbes that are in the clover, and now we have a livestock integration, and chickens doing what chickens do with the pest control and hopefully the weed control. You know, I think we got a great system, you know, that hopefully is sustainable and adds, that increases the yield of that plant and reduces the environmental demand that crop takes.
Gavin, anything to add?
I think that's pretty much it. I think we just really enjoy having the chickens out here on the farm, and I think we really like just having the presence of chickens. I think it's something that everybody should think about. I think it can be applied to multiple areas. You can do it with your garden. You can do it with, row crops. You can do it with pretty much anything. I think chickens are just a great thing to have.
Great. And this is really what we used to do. I grew up on a hardscrabble farm in New Hampshire. My daddy used to do this kind of stuff with the corn, potatoes, and that kind of stuff. We had the chickens, we had eggs and pigs and all that kind of stuff. So this is really a cool experiment out here. Thank you, Carl and Gavin. And we're going to end up our talk today with our tip of the month from Rich. So Rich, come on in. Let's see what we got going here. It's September. It's almost the equinox. So now we have about 12 hours of daylight across the globe. From the north to the south, from the south to the north, all the way around, we've got 12 hours, approximately. And in the northern hemisphere, we're going down in our hours. But chickens like more sunlight, so what do you do in the winter to keep the production up?
Well, chickens lay the best when they get about 15 hours of sunshine in a day of light. And we'll go down to 9 here in the wintertime in Iowa, so we need to add some light. So around the equinox, around now at home where we have electricity, we plug a timer in and just a simple little light fixture like this that I attach to a 2x4, and we set the timer so that it comes on about 4 o'clock in the morning. We wake them up and it goes off, the light goes off about sunrise, and we get more eggs.
So why do you turn the light on in the morning? Why don't you have the light until nighttime, like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock?
Oh, there's a good reason for that, because chickens' eyes are a little bit like people's eyes, and if we had this on and we extended the day into the dark, turned it off like at midnight when it's really dark, they can't see to get up to the roost. So it's better to wake them up in the morning.
In the morning. And let's get a little closer to this thing. I've never quite figured out how it works, but tell us how you know how to time this thing.
It's just a plain old timer that you can buy in any store that sells lighting equipment, and as the days tend to shorten, you do need to change the setting a little bit. So you may need to give them a little bit more artificial light as the winter progresses, and then as spring starts progressing, you give them a little bit less light. We tend to put this on about the fall equinox take it off about the spring equinox,
Okay.
the end of March.
And are there directions so that you're doing it the right way instead of, I
Oh,
remember
sure.
one time I did it the opposite way.
There are the instructions
Uh-huh.
right there
All
in
right.
Spanish or something. There they are
Okay.
in English.
Well, this has been a really great time up here at the Etzel Sugar Grove Farm with Carl and Gavin and the girls and the soybeans. And we appreciate Hoover's Hatchery. And by the way, these are all Hoover Hatchery girls. So we're the Pattersons with Winding Pathways and Hoover's Hatchery. We'll see you next month with a new topic. So we hope you have a great time.